There is a story whispered across centuries and passed through generations of a place so rich in gold and jewels that it defies imagination. A place called El Dorado. This legend speaks of a hidden kingdom, nestled deep within the dense jungles of South America, where golden treasures lay untouched by time, waiting to be discovered. It is a place that explorers, conquerors, and dreamers have searched for relentlessly, their imaginations fueled by tales of unimaginable wealth. But El Dorado wasn't always thought of as a city. In its earliest form, the legend spoke of a man, a king who would cover himself in gold dust, turning his skin to shimmering gold, and dive into the sacred waters of a lake as an offering to the gods. This gilded man, as he was known, performed a ritual so extraordinary that those who witnessed it could hardly believe their eyes. Over time, the story of this golden king grew, transforming from a simple ritual into the idea of an entire city, rich with treasure and waiting to be found. The myth of El Dorado captured the hearts and minds of explorers who longed for adventure and the promise of riches. It was a beacon of hope in an age of discovery, a golden city hidden away in the vast, uncharted jungles of the New World. The Spanish conquistadors were among the first to seek it, drawn by dreams of wealth that would rival even the treasures of the mighty Inca Empire. But they were not alone. Soon, explorers from all over Europe would set sail to South America, driven by a longing to uncover the secrets of El Dorado. Many would venture deep into the rainforests, crossing rivers and enduring harsh conditions, following the whispers of native guides and the faintest hints of gold. Yet, as they searched, El Dorado remained elusive, slipping away like a shadow just out of reach. Was it real, or was it merely a dream that captivated the hearts of those who yearned for something more? Tonight, as we journey into the heart of this timeless legend, we'll explore the origins of the myth, the courageous explorers who risked everything to find it, and the secrets that lie hidden in the depths of the jungle. Let the stars above and the quiet of the night guide us into the mystery of El Dorado, a tale of gold, adventure, and the enduring allure of the unknown. Chapter 1. The Beginnings of the Legend. The story of El Dorado, the mythical city of gold, began not as a city or kingdom, but as a single figure, a king draped in shimmering gold. This early form of the legend originated in the Andean highlands of what is now Colombia among the Muisca people, a proud and deeply spiritual civilization with rituals that honored their gods and bound their society together. To the Muisca, gold was not merely a symbol of wealth or power, it was sacred. Gold was believed to be the sweat of the sun, a divine metal that connected their world with the heavens. And so, for generations, the Muisca crafted intricate golden ornaments, jewelry, and statues to offer as tributes to their deities. Yet, even with all this golden artistry, one ritual stood out, one that would eventually ignite the imagination of explorers far beyond the Andean mountains. The legend tells of a Muisca chieftain, a ruler chosen by his people, who would undertake a sacred ritual upon his coronation. This ritual was held at Lake Guatavita, a deep, circular lake nestled in the mountains, surrounded by dense forests and shrouded in mist. To honor the gods and demonstrate his devotion, the new ruler would be covered from head to toe in gold dust, his skin transformed into a shimmering canvas of golden light. As dawn broke, he would climb onto a raft, drifting slowly toward the center of the lake. There, in the stillness of the water, the chieftain would stand, glowing like a statue of gold against the morning light, as his people watched from the shores in reverent silence. He would then plunge into the waters, letting the gold wash away, an offering to the gods below. Beside him, attendants would cast golden trinkets, ornaments, and jewels into the lake, all as part of a sacred ritual of devotion and gratitude. This extraordinary sight of a gilded man covered in gold was so powerful, so mesmerizing, that it quickly spread beyond the Muisca people. When the Spanish arrived in the early 1500s, they heard whispers of a golden king and the offerings left beneath the lake's waters. But as the story passed from one person to another, it began to shift and grow. The Spanish conquistadors, who had witnessed the splendor of the Inca Empire and seen cities lined with gold, could hardly believe their luck. They thought they had found the key to a new and even greater source of riches. In the minds of these adventurers, the Gilded King's ritual took on a new form. To them, it wasn't merely a single ritual or a single king, it was a symbol of a city or even an empire, one that must be filled with unimaginable wealth. The word El Dorado, meaning the Gilded One, soon became more than just a description of the Golden King. It became the name of a legendary city, an entire realm made of gold, hidden away in the uncharted jungles of South America. With each telling, the story of El Dorado grew grander. Some said it was a city where streets were paved with gold and buildings glittered with jewels. Others imagined golden statues, endless treasures, and riches beyond comprehension. El Dorado became a beacon for those who dreamed of wealth and adventure, a tantalizing promise that, somewhere in the wild heart of the New World, lay a paradise of gold. Yet, while the Spanish were mesmerized by tales of this legendary city, the Muisca viewed the legend differently. For them, the ritual at Lake Guatavita was an act of devotion, a way to honor their gods and renew their connection to the divine. It was not about wealth or conquest, but about balance, tradition, and respect. But as the legend spread, the story of the Golden King was woven into the ambitions of foreign explorers, whose visions of El Dorado grew far beyond anything the Muisca could have imagined. This transformation, from the sacred ritual of a gilded king to the legend of an entire city of gold, marked the beginning of a quest that would span centuries. Adventurers would soon brave the dense jungles, cross perilous rivers, and face unknown dangers, all in search of a place that may or may not have ever existed. As the story of El Dorado evolved, so too did the feverish desire to find it, as if each new rumor, each new expedition, brought it just a little closer to reality. But the question remained. Was El Dorado real, or was it merely a vision conjured by the hopes and dreams of those who sought it? As we journey deeper into this legend, we will follow the footsteps of the explorers who dared to search, even as the jungle swallowed their secrets, leaving only traces of the Golden King's ritual and the mystery of a hidden city. Chapter 2. The Spanish Conquistadors' Quest. With the whispers of El Dorado fresh in their minds, the Spanish conquistadors, who had already seen the wealth of the Aztec and Inca empires, became captivated by the idea of a city overflowing with gold. This mythical city, somewhere in the unexplored jungles of South America, seemed like a tantalizing promise of fortune and glory. Driven by tales of riches beyond measure, these men were willing to risk everything to claim what they believed to be theirs by divine right. One of the first Spanish explorers to lead an expedition in search of El Dorado was Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada. In 1536, he set out with a sizable force, drawn by the tales he'd heard of a golden kingdom in the heart of the Colombian Andes. His journey was grueling and filled with danger. They encountered dense jungles, venomous creatures, powerful rivers, and sweltering heat. Yet the promise of untold riches was too tempting to abandon. As Quesada and his men pushed deeper into the Andes, they encountered indigenous communities who were both perplexed and fearful of the conquistadors. Some tribes shared stories of a gilded king who would throw treasures into a sacred lake, further fueling the explorers' belief in El Dorado's existence. But as they moved from one village to the next, braving hunger, disease, and exhaustion, the reality of the jungle set in. Many of Quesada's men fell ill or lost their lives to the relentless wilderness, and those who survived grew wary, questioning if the stories were nothing more than a dream. Despite their hardships, Quesada and his men eventually reached the land of the Muisca, where they found evidence of gold, not in overwhelming abundance, but in the form of intricate ornaments and small treasures. The Muisca people welcomed them with caution, offering them gifts as a gesture of peace. To the conquistadors, this modest amount of gold only heightened their desire, as they believed it was a mere hint of the vast riches El Dorado promised. They were certain the city of gold was just beyond reach, hidden in the mountains or concealed by the dense jungle. Quesada's expedition, though challenging, was not the only attempt to find El Dorado. Word of his journey spread, drawing even more explorers to South America. One such adventurer was Sebastián de Belalcázar, a Spanish conquistador known for his conquests in Ecuador and Colombia. Eager to claim El Dorado for himself, Belalcázar launched his own expedition. He followed rumors and local legends, convinced that he would succeed where others had failed. However, like Quesada, he was met with the same obstacles: impenetrable forests, fierce rivers, and the silent resistance of the land itself. Despite their differing routes and approaches, Quesada, Belalcázar, and other Spanish explorers crossed paths in their search for El Dorado. Tensions ran high, as each man wanted the glory of finding the city for himself. The ambition and rivalry among these conquistadors only added to the chaos of the expeditions, as disputes over territory, treasure, and the rights to lead often delayed or derailed their progress. As the months turned to years, a grim realization began to set in. El Dorado, as they had imagined it, remained as elusive as ever. The mountains, rivers, and jungles that they believed concealed untold riches instead offered only hardships, isolation, and disappointment. Some conquistadors began to doubt if El Dorado was anything more than a legend, a vision born of greed and desperation. Yet for every failed expedition, new rumors would emerge, rekindling hope. Stories spread of golden statues hidden in valleys, treasure-laden temples concealed by vines, and a city that shimmered with light under the midday sun. The Spanish, whose conquests had already made them the wealthiest empire in Europe, could not ignore the allure of this final, unclaimed prize. They believed El Dorado was out there, waiting for the one who could endure the trials and unlock its secrets. As more expeditions set forth, it became clear that the search for El Dorado was more than a hunt for riches. It had become a symbol, a goal that held explorers in its grip, compelling them onward even when reason and experience told them to turn back. Driven by greed, ambition, and a desire for glory, the Spanish pressed deeper into the unknown, leaving behind tales of both success and tragedy. But the legend of El Dorado was not one to be easily claimed or conquered. For every rumor they chased, the city seemed to slip further away, retreating into the mists of the Andes, hiding just beyond their reach. And as the Spanish continued their relentless quest, they failed to realize that the land itself, the sacred mountains and rivers, guarded its secrets closely, refusing to yield to those who sought only gold. As we continue this journey, we'll follow the path of new adventurers who, undeterred by the failures of those before them, were determined to uncover the truth of El Dorado. Each expedition, each tale, only adds to the mystery, making the City of Gold a legend that would outlast even the most persistent explorers. Chapter 3. Sir Walter Raleigh and the English Pursuit. As the legend of El Dorado spread across Europe, the allure of the fabled City of Gold captivated more than just the Spanish. England, a rising power with ambitions to rival Spain's dominance in the New World, saw an opportunity in the tales of El Dorado, not only for wealth but as a means to undermine Spain's influence. Among the English explorers drawn to this promise of glory was Sir Walter Raleigh, a soldier, poet, and adventurer with a keen interest in expanding England's empire. Raleigh's fascination with El Dorado was fueled by both ambition and rivalry. As one of Queen Elizabeth I's trusted courtiers, he had made a name for himself in England, and his sights were set on earning her favor through a grand discovery. If El Dorado truly existed, it would not only bring him wealth but also serve as a powerful blow against Spain, England's greatest rival. The dream of finding a city overflowing with gold, hidden in the vast South American wilderness, became an obsession for Raleigh, one that he would pursue with remarkable persistence. In 1595, Raleigh set sail for South America, determined to find the legendary city. His expedition took him to Guyana in the region of present-day Venezuela and Guyana, where he believed El Dorado was concealed in the jungle, or perhaps hidden in the mysterious highlands of the Orinoco River basin. Raleigh's vision of the city had grown more elaborate in his mind. He imagined vast treasures, temples lined with gold, and riches that would make England the wealthiest nation on earth. However, Raleigh's journey, like so many before him, was met with the harsh realities of the South American wilderness. The dense rainforest was a formidable barrier, and the heat, humidity, and swarms of insects took a toll on his men. They navigated winding rivers, enduring rough waters, and encountering tribes who spoke of a golden city deep in the jungle, but who often viewed Raleigh's presence with suspicion. Despite the challenges, Raleigh recorded his observations in detail, painting a picture of a land filled with exotic beauty, abundant resources, and hints of untold wealth. His writings described native legends and his own speculations about El Dorado's whereabouts. He believed he had found evidence of its existence in stories passed down by local tribes, interpreting these accounts as proof that the city lay just beyond the next river bend, the next mountain range. Raleigh's book, The Discovery of Guyana, published upon his return to England, captivated readers and fueled further interest in El Dorado. In his account, he described the wealth of the region and hinted at a hidden city brimming with gold, guarded by the fierce indigenous people of the highlands. His words inspired others to believe in the legend's reality, and for a time it seemed that El Dorado was within England's grasp. Though Raleigh returned to England without the treasure he had dreamed of, he remained undeterred. El Dorado, in his mind, was still real, still waiting to be found. Years later, Raleigh would undertake a second expedition in 1617, this time with even greater determination. But by then, times had changed. Queen Elizabeth was gone, and Raleigh was no longer in favor at court. Under King James I, Raleigh's authority was limited, and his resources stretched thin. On this second journey, Raleigh's search for El Dorado took on a new tone. Age and experience had tempered his idealism, yet the legend still held him in its grip. He traveled again to the Orinoco River, but this time his efforts were beset by difficulties. His son, Wat Raleigh, joined him on this expedition, but the journey would end in tragedy when Wat was killed in a skirmish with Spanish forces, a stark reminder of the ever-present tension between England and Spain. Disheartened and defeated, Raleigh returned to England empty-handed, with the shadow of his son's death weighing heavily on him. His failure to bring back the riches of El Dorado only worsened his reputation at court. Ultimately, he was accused of treason and sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, Raleigh's life ended without the glory he had sought, but his legacy and the legend of El Dorado lived on. Though Raleigh had failed to uncover the Golden City, his writings and journeys left a lasting impression. His vivid descriptions of the jungles, rivers, and people of South America fed Europe's fascination with the legend, sparking a new wave of explorers who were drawn to the promise of El Dorado. They believed Raleigh's account, convinced that he had been close, that somewhere in the wild expanse of Guyana lay the city that had eluded him. In the centuries that followed, the mystery of El Dorado continued to attract adventurers and treasure hunters from all corners of the globe, each determined to claim what Raleigh and others had sought. Yet the city remained elusive, retreating further into legend, always just beyond reach. And as Raleigh's final chapter closed, the story of El Dorado was far from over. As we move forward in our journey, we will uncover more tales of those who dared to follow in Raleigh's footsteps, hoping to succeed where he had failed. For though El Dorado remained unseen, its lure was as powerful as ever, drawing each new generation into the depths of the unknown. Chapter 4. The Role of Lake Guatavita. At the heart of the legend of El Dorado lies Lake Guatavita, a tranquil, circular lake nestled high in the Colombian Andes. This lake, sacred to the Muisca people, has held a place of mystery and reverence for centuries. For the Muisca, it was a place of worship, a place where their leaders connected with the gods through the famous golden ritual of the Gilded King, who would dive into its depths as part of his coronation. But for the Spanish conquistadors and the generations of treasure hunters who followed, Lake Guatavita became something else entirely, a beacon of untold riches, a place where gold and jewels lay waiting to be claimed. It was here, according to legend, that the Gilded King would stand on a raft, covered in gold dust, and make offerings to the gods. As he descended into the waters, his attendants would cast golden trinkets, jewels, and ornaments into the lake as sacrifices. These tales of sacred rituals held an irresistible allure for explorers, who saw in Lake Guatavita not a place of devotion, but a hidden repository of treasure, a gateway to El Dorado itself. In the decades following the Spanish conquest, numerous attempts were made to drain or excavate the lake in search of its treasures. In 1545, Hernán Pérez de Quesada, the brother of conquistador Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada, became one of the first to undertake the task. With a team of enslaved indigenous people, Quesada attempted to lower the water level by cutting a notch in the lake's rim. His efforts yielded some small amounts of gold, ornaments, ceremonial items, and jewelry that had been cast into the water long ago. However, despite this discovery, Quesada found no signs of the vast riches he had imagined. The lake, it seemed, was not willing to reveal all its secrets so easily. Still, these findings only fueled further attempts. The small pieces of gold recovered from the lake's edges were enough to convince treasure hunters that even greater riches lay hidden in its depths. In 1580, a merchant from Bogota named Antonio de Sepulveda undertook a much grander project to drain Lake Guatavita. Employing a more ambitious approach, Sepulveda and his team dug an enormous trench in an attempt to drain the lake and expose the treasures below. For months, laborers toiled, digging deeper into the earth, and at last the water began to recede. As the lake drained, the mud at the bottom began to dry, revealing glimmers of gold and small artifacts that had been scattered across the lake bed. The treasure hunters uncovered golden jewelry, figurines, and ornaments, each piece telling a story of the Muisca rituals performed in devotion to their gods. But nature had other plans. As Sepulveda's team continued their work, the trench walls eventually collapsed, flooding the lake once again and forcing the treasure hunters to abandon their mission. Despite their efforts and the precious objects they had retrieved, Sepulveda and his men were forced to leave with only a fraction of the lake's offerings. They, too, had come close, but had not unlocked the full bounty of Lake Guatavita. The lure of the lake continued to draw explorers from far and wide. In the 19th century, a British company made yet another attempt to drain the lake. With modern equipment and more advanced engineering, they believed they could succeed where others had failed. They lowered the water level significantly and brought up mud filled with small pieces of gold, but, like their predecessors, they found no vast treasure troves. Eventually, after years of labor and expense, they abandoned the project, concluding that the lake's wealth had been greatly exaggerated. Despite these repeated attempts, Lake Guatavita retained its mystery, seeming to resist every effort to uncover its secrets. Each venture brought with it tales of challenges and setbacks, as if the lake itself held a kind of enchantment, allowing only a few fragments of its riches to be taken while concealing the rest in its silent depths. Over time, as the myth of El Dorado shifted from reality to legend, Lake Guatavita became a symbol of the allure and the futility of the search for unimaginable wealth. The lake, once a sacred site of worship, had become a place where dreams of fortune met the harsh reality of nature's resistance. It was as if the lake held a pact with the gods, guarding its secrets against those who sought to disturb its peace. Today, Lake Guatavita remains a place of mystery and beauty, a reminder of the countless adventurers who came searching for a city of gold, but left with only glimpses of what lay below the surface. It stands as a testament to the power of the El Dorado legend, the enduring hope of riches, and the dreams that have driven people to the farthest reaches of the world. As we continue our journey, we'll see how the legend of El Dorado continued to grow, inspiring new expeditions and becoming a story that transcended wealth. For, in the end, El Dorado was no longer just a city of gold. It was a symbol, a dream that had the power to captivate and inspire for generations. Chapter 5. Modern Expeditions and Scientific Perspectives. As the centuries passed, the allure of El Dorado continued to captivate imaginations. By the early 20th century, advancements in archaeology, anthropology, and exploration equipment brought a new wave of expeditions to the jungles of South America. But unlike the conquistadors and early explorers who had sought El Dorado's wealth purely for fortune and glory, these new explorers arrived with a different question in mind: Could El Dorado have been real, or was it simply a myth that grew out of misunderstandings and dreams of gold? Among those who sought answers was Percy Fawcett, a British explorer and archaeologist who became fascinated by the idea of lost cities in the Amazon. Fawcett believed that hidden in the dense jungles of Brazil, there was a city he called Z, which he speculated might be connected to the El Dorado legend. Fawcett's journeys into the Amazon in the 1920s were filled with hardship, as he encountered harsh terrain, disease, and challenges that mirrored the trials of explorers centuries before. Yet, despite the grueling conditions, he pressed on, driven by the conviction that something remarkable awaited him. Fawcett's final expedition in 1925 would become one of the most enduring mysteries of Amazonian exploration. He and his team vanished without a trace, leaving behind only rumors and theories about his fate. Though Fawcett may not have found the legendary city he was searching for, his passion ignited a new era of curiosity about South America's hidden secrets. His disappearance, along with his accounts, inspired a new generation to look beyond the myth of El Dorado and consider the possibility of ancient civilizations that once flourished in the jungle. As archaeologists and scientists took up the search, they turned their attention not only to the tales of treasure, but to the origins of the legend itself. Many began to explore the theory that El Dorado may have been less about a single city or kingdom, and more about cultural practices of the indigenous peoples of the region. Some believed that the Muisca rituals at Lake Guatavita, for example, had inspired stories of gold and grandeur that spread far and wide, evolving into the tale of a hidden city of wealth. As technology advanced, archaeologists used satellite imagery and LiDAR, light detection and ranging, to map the Amazon, revealing traces of settlements, roads, and canals that indicated a thriving network of ancient communities. These discoveries suggested that the indigenous people of the Amazon were far more advanced than early explorers had believed. Though these settlements were not cities of gold, they hinted at a rich history of civilization and trade, one that may have sparked the imagination of those who heard tales of golden rituals and lost cities. Anthropologists also began to study the impact of the Spanish conquest on these indigenous cultures, recognizing that the Europeans had often misunderstood or misinterpreted local traditions. To the Spanish, gold represented wealth and power, and they projected this value onto the stories they heard from the Muisca and other tribes. But for many indigenous communities, gold held religious or symbolic significance rather than material value. The gilded king, adorned with gold dust as an offering to the gods, was a figure of spirituality, not a symbol of an empire rich with treasure. In the late 20th century, historians began to view El Dorado not as a place but as a concept, a vision shaped by the hopes, desires, and misunderstandings of those who sought it. El Dorado had become more than a legend. It was a story that reflected humanity's longing for something greater, for a hidden paradise or a lost world untouched by time. It represented the mystery and the allure of the unknown, the idea that there was still magic to be found in a world that was becoming increasingly mapped and explored. Today, the idea of El Dorado continues to evolve, inspiring movies, books, and countless stories. Scholars now believe that the legend of El Dorado may have been a blend of truths, cultural practices, and European imaginings, a story that grew out of a single ritual and transformed over time into the dream of a city of gold. While there may never have been a single golden city hidden in the jungle, the myth itself has left a lasting impact, a reminder of the mysteries that the world still holds. As we reflect on these modern perspectives, we see that El Dorado has become more than just a search for wealth. It is a symbol of discovery and exploration, an embodiment of the human spirit's endless curiosity and desire for wonder. Even if the city of gold itself never existed, the legend of El Dorado remains as a testament to our need to believe in something greater, to explore the unknown, and to find meaning beyond the material. In the next chapter, we'll explore how El Dorado has transcended history to become a cultural icon, inspiring adventurers and storytellers for generations. For, in the end, the journey to find El Dorado may be as important as the destination itself. Chapter 6. The Enduring Legacy of El Dorado. Though centuries have passed since the first explorers sought El Dorado, the legend remains alive and vibrant in our culture. Today, El Dorado has become more than just a city of gold. It is a symbol of mystery, adventure, and the human longing to discover something extraordinary. The story of El Dorado has been woven into books, films, and folklore, evolving from a quest for riches into an emblem of exploration and the allure of the unknown. El Dorado has inspired adventurers and storytellers for generations, igniting a fascination with hidden worlds and untouched realms. In popular culture, El Dorado has appeared in countless adaptations, from novels and documentaries to animated films and Hollywood blockbusters. The legend has been portrayed as a paradise of wealth, a land of mystical secrets, or a realm of uncharted territory just waiting to be uncovered. It captures the imagination, feeding the desire to believe that somewhere out there lies a hidden treasure, an ancient secret, or a lost civilization that has yet to be revealed. Beyond entertainment, El Dorado has become a metaphor for the journey itself, the search for something greater, whether it be knowledge, adventure, or purpose. The Golden City may not exist in any physical form, but the legend of El Dorado invites us to explore the limits of what we know and the possibilities of what might still be undiscovered. Just as explorers once navigated jungles, rivers, and mountains in search of its treasures, we are all on a journey, seeking something that lies beyond the horizon. The allure of El Dorado speaks to a universal theme, the human drive to reach beyond the familiar and to challenge the unknown. In many ways, the story of El Dorado is a story about ourselves. It reflects our desires, our hopes, and our fears, the dreams that push us to venture into the unknown despite the risks. It reminds us that sometimes the search itself holds more meaning than what we find, for it is in the journey that we grow, learn, and discover who we are. In South America, the places once associated with El Dorado, Lake Guatavita, the Orinoco River, and the dense Amazonian jungles, have become destinations for travelers seeking to connect with the past. These sites remind us of the rich history of the Muisca, Inca, and countless other indigenous cultures whose stories, rituals, and traditions gave birth to the legend. The sacred lake, the gilded king, the ancient trails, all of these elements have become part of a shared heritage that continues to fascinate and inspire. For many, El Dorado has also become a symbol of lost innocence, a vision of a paradise untouched by greed or conquest. It serves as a reminder of the impact of colonization on the Americas and the profound consequences of the search for wealth. The pursuit of El Dorado brought explorers from across the sea, but it also led to the displacement, exploitation, and suffering of countless indigenous communities. In this way, The story of El Dorado is both a celebration of discovery and a reflection on the costs of conquest. As we look back on the legend, we find that El Dorado has evolved from a physical quest for gold into a timeless story about the human spirit. It teaches us that some mysteries may never be solved, and that perhaps they are not meant to be. El Dorado, the city of gold, may remain hidden forever, retreating further into legend with each passing year. But as long as there are those who dream of adventure, of lost worlds and hidden wonders, the spirit of El Dorado will live on. In this final reflection, we see that El Dorado is no longer just a place. It is an idea, an aspiration, and a reminder of the beauty in mystery. It encourages us to keep searching, to keep dreaming, and to embrace the unknown with an open heart. For sometimes, the treasures we seek are not at the end of the journey but found along the way, in the stories we share, the challenges we overcome, and the wonder we feel as we gaze into the unknown. And as we drift off to sleep, let the legend of El Dorado remind us that there is still magic to be found, even in the familiar. The stars above and the quiet of the night hold their own secrets, waiting to be discovered in the light of a new day. The legend of El Dorado is as much a journey as it is a destination, a story that has transcended centuries and crossed continents, captivating the hearts and minds of explorers, historians, and dreamers alike. From its origins as a sacred ritual of a gilded king to its transformation into a fabled city of gold, the story of El Dorado has continuously evolved, shaped by those who sought to uncover its secrets. Our journey began with the Muisca people and their golden king, a figure whose ritual at Lake Guatavita would inspire generations of explorers to believe that riches beyond imagination lay hidden in South America. For the Muisca, this ritual was not about wealth but devotion, a way to honor their gods by offering gold as a sacred gift. Yet, as word of this ritual reached the ears of the Spanish conquistadors, it became something else entirely. The Spanish, who valued gold as a symbol of power and prestige, saw in these stories the promise of an entire kingdom overflowing with treasures, hidden somewhere in the jungle. The conquistadors set out on grueling expeditions, braving the unknown with the dream of finding a city of unimaginable wealth. Men like Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada, Francisco Pizarro, and Hernán Pérez de Quesada ventured deep into the Andean highlands and beyond, driven by both ambition and rivalry. Each expedition encountered challenges that tested their endurance and resilience. Impenetrable forests, powerful rivers, and the relentless forces of nature. Yet El Dorado remained just out of reach, a phantom that seemed to fade further into legend with each passing mile. As time went on, El Dorado's legend spread beyond Spain. It became a symbol not only of wealth but of adventure, sparking the interest of explorers like Sir Walter Raleigh, who saw in the city a means to secure England's place in the New World and challenge Spain's dominance. Raleigh's expeditions, though filled with hardship and personal loss, only fueled the mystery. His tales of Guyana and the Orinoco River region added layers to the legend, inspiring others to believe that El Dorado was not just a city, but a kingdom, hidden within the dense jungle, waiting to be discovered. And yet, despite countless attempts to uncover its secrets, El Dorado remained elusive. The expeditions to Lake Guatavita, where treasure hunters tried to drain the sacred waters, yielded only fragments of gold. Each discovery seemed to hint at something greater, but the lake guarded its secrets well, allowing only small glimpses of the riches that, explorers hoped would reveal the way to the fabled city. By the 20th century, the story of El Dorado had taken on new meaning, as scientists and archaeologists began to view the legend through a different lens. Modern technology and a deeper understanding of indigenous cultures allowed researchers to explore the idea that El Dorado was more than a city or a treasure. It was a concept, an amalgamation of indigenous rituals and European aspirations that had morphed into a story of hidden wealth and ancient wonder. Satellite imagery and archaeological discoveries uncovered traces of advanced indigenous settlements, revealing a rich and complex civilization that existed long before European explorers arrived. The myth of El Dorado, they suggested, was a testament to these cultures, misunderstood by those who viewed gold as a measure of worth rather than a symbol of spiritual significance. Today, El Dorado continues to captivate us, not because we expect to find a city paved with gold, but because the legend has come to represent something greater than material wealth. El Dorado has become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world. In an era where technology has mapped mountains and charted oceans, the story of El Dorado invites us to believe that there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered, still wonders beyond the edge of our understanding. The search for El Dorado reminds us that sometimes the journey itself is the reward. The explorers who sought the city of gold were driven by a desire for wealth, yet they found something else along the way: courage, resilience, and a connection to lands that were as beautiful as they were challenging. The legend of El Dorado lives on in these stories, in the adventures, the discoveries, and the timeless question of whether the city of gold was ever truly real. As we reflect on this journey, we are left with a sense of wonder, a reminder that even if El Dorado never existed as a physical city, its spirit lives on in the hearts of those who dare to dream, to explore, and to believe in the magic of the unknown. El Dorado, the city of gold, may never be found, but its legacy endures, a beacon that invites us to keep searching, to embrace the mysteries that lie beyond our grasp, and to find meaning in the pursuit of the extraordinary.